Okay, this is Josh Armstrong from US Workboats. I'm joining you today from my kitchen. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about some basic measurements. And, you know, we have different tools that we may measure when we're doing some fabricating. We could use some of these tools like a vernier or feeler gauge or micrometer, but those really aren't great for measuring. They're not great for measuring when we're fabricating. We're going to use this. We're going to use a tape measure. So this tape measure, I guess the thing about it is tape measures give you fractions, okay? They give you feet and inches. Okay, and when we're talking about a tape measure here, not talking about a metric tape measure. I mean, you can get metric tape measures, but we're talking about a regular tape measure that does feet and inches. I mean, because we're in America. And so I want to zoom in and look at this. Come on over. Okay, and so we're talking about these inches, and I'm going to work between 10 and 11 here just for the fun of it because it's easy for us to see. And so right here, this is a ½ an inch. So really we're dividing, I'm talking about fractions, we're dividing it into ½ an inch, and then we're dividing it again into a ¼ inch right there. It's a quarter, still pretty easy to see. Divide that again, and that's an 1/8, being halfway between a quarter and nothing. And then those other ones are 16ths, and that's the smallest that it gets here. Now, when we're doing a thousandths of an inch, we're gonna have 30 seconds also, but you don't have 30 seconds actually on your tape measure. And my eyes aren't very good, so hopefully you can at least see that well enough. That's what we're talking about, is fractions of an inch, and you're dividing it in half and half and half and half to get those fractions. Thank you. Okay, everyone, so I really actually, you know, I wanna keep this intentionally quite simple for the first while because, you know, we really wanna go somewhere with these. And so, I guess we're going to get 16ths of an inch, and those can be useful, and we get to, you know, whatever, 30 seconds of an inch, we get all these different things. We're going to divide an inch up. Well, I guess the other thing is some of our equipment, and I'll show you actually some of our equipment, and but they use a different way to measure that. They do that in what's called thousandths of an inch, and there's a big problem a lot of the time, you know, where people have some trouble going from an inch to thousandths of an inch. And the way I actually have explained this to some people in the past is by using money. And we agree here that I've got, you know, $1. And then $1 is right here. It's 1.00. So 1.00, and then, you know, we could say that we got some rolls of pennies here. I don't know. We could, you know, basically these two rolls of pennies, and I didn't know how these were going to come apart, but there's 100 pennies right there. So those are hundredths. Those are hundredths of a dollar, right? So those are hundredths of a dollar, and so okay, we can divide that all the way down into 100. But what about this when you're talking about thousands? So we're allowed to add an extra zero here, and now we've got, if I can get this to draw very good, we've got thousandths. Those are thousandths of an inch, and our machinery uses thousandths. Okay, so what we're talking about here is these pesky thousandths of an inch. You know, we got this 7.875, and we're talking about inches because we're in America, and they're on the shear, and they're also over here on the press. Come on over here. Just talking about these pesky thousandths of an inch again. We're here looking at the control panel on the press brake. We just wanted to go ahead and tell you what we're talking about. And these are thousandths of an inch. We'll zoom in on what we're looking at here. And what we got is we actually have, you know, limits. And these are all here. These are all in inches. And they're all in thousandths. And those numbers might be a little confusing, but they're really not. We're going to go over that. Now we need to do that. And we need to convert that over to here, to the measurements we get in our tape measure. Okay, we'll get started. We might say that we agree that this is $1, and I think this one's left over from the strip club actually, but we can take this $1 and we can take it here and we can rip it in half, and we can say we have $1, we have half $1, we have 2 halves, we still have $1, but half of it is really, if we're going to use these thousandths of an inch, I don't really know if I can get this pen to work here for me, draw wide for you guys. But 50 cents or 500 thousandths in our case, okay? Because we're using our equipment that's measuring in thousandths, so it's gonna be 500 thousandths of an inch, or 50 cents, half of a dollar, okay? So you're with me so far. Using money to explain this to people has actually really been helpful for me in the past. And I don't know if you can see these, but I got 4 quarters. That's actually Canadian one, I think there. But the 4 quarters here, and we could say that a quarter is, we all agree that a quarter is 25 cents. So I'm just gonna go ahead and say that down here somewhere, we'll put this 0.25, and we agree that we're allowed to add the 0. It's not going to change that value. We're talking about dividing up inches into thousandths. Okay, we got 25 cents, we got 50 cents, you know, being 2 quarters or half of our dollar. And then we also would, of course, have up here somewhere, we'd have 75 cents or 750 thousandths. That's 3 quarters, okay? Now, people have a blockage when it comes to fractions and thousandths. Why do they have it? And I don't really know, but I remember teaching my children about fractions, and one of the ways it was really helpful was to say that, you know, we could take this orange and go, geez, Mr. Armstrong, you're cutting everything up. I don't know if you guys are hungry here, but we got a quarter of an orange here. I just sliced that into quarters, and so quarter of an orange or quarter of a dollar or 250 thousandths of an inch, still just a quarter. So I'm gonna go ahead and enjoy this orange. Stop talking for a minute. Do that, but let's talk more about this quarter for a second. This quarter is harder for me to divide in half, but I'm gonna make an attempt at that. So, okay guys, I got a quarter here. It's clamped up in my vice grips. And I've also got myself a hacksaw because I really want to make this point, and we'll see how I do. You go, Mr. Armstrong, you've gone mad. You're cutting your money in half, you've ripped your dollar in half, and you've now gone and sawn that quarter in half. Well, we now have half of a quarter, or we would say that each one of these is probably worth 12.5 cents. Would everyone agree they're worth 12.5 cents? Okay, so I've got my 2 halves of a quarter, and we agreed that just a minute ago that they were 12.5 cents a piece, or in our case, we're dividing these inches, we're doing that into, we're dividing that quarter in half, and it's now 12.5 cents, or you're really gonna like this, it's actually, I've done this in another color for you, hopefully you can see it okay, and Dawson's not very impressed with my writing here. I don't know if we can see that okay. Is it showing up all right? Maybe. 125 thousandths of an inch would be 1/8 of an inch. So 1/8, you know, being half of a quarter, 125 thousandths. Well, that wasn't too bad either. So we could say, well, somewhere in between this 1/4 inch and this 1/4 inch and a 1/2 inch, we also are going to get another real common size that we use all of the time, and it's really nice thickness of material. It's quite a thick bit, but we're going to have that we're going to get that 375, which is just, gosh, it's not really drawing that well here. 375 thousandths of an inch would be 3/8, and so we could either go, you know, 3 times 125, or we could go 250 plus 125, 375. Writing isn't turning out real well, but we're going to have one in here too. We're going to have this. Well, maybe I'll just draw it off to the edge a little bit. See if I can do this a little bit better. 625 thousandths, 5/8 of an inch. In between here, we're going to have another one, 0.875, 7/8 of an inch. So we got our eighths done now, but there's a lot of other sizes, and so we're going to continue on with this. Okay, so now I got this dime and this nickel, which are common bits of money. We all know 10 cents. We don't really have to cut that one in half, and you'll notice I didn't cut it in half because I don't need to, because I have that nickel. It's just half of that. And you know, I actually don't need to cut that nickel either, because I can just take, and I've got the 5 pennies here in my hand, and is it 4? Yeah, well, there you go, there's 5. So that's divided into 5 now, but you know, it's still, we can't divide maybe 5 cents in half, so what we need to do is we need to cut a penny in half instead. So I've got one of those clamped up here with my vice grips, and I'm going to cut that penny in half. And you go, well, that was not so bad. Stop. Okay, Mr. Armstrong, you really have gone mad. What are you doing now? Well, as you can see, I decided to cut that penny even a little bit more. Where did that little piece go? Okay. Actually take, you saw me do this, I cut that penny in half as well. And so we could say that we have down here, and I'll put, I'm going to put some of these off to the side a little bit, but down here, and I'm going to do down at the very bottom is a 0.010 or 1 penny, 10 thousandths of an inch or 1/100th of a dollar would be depicted here. 0.01, 010, still the same value. 1 penny or 10 thousandths of an inch. And if we divided that in half, which I've done when I've cut that penny, I've got that penny cut down here into 2, and so half of that, I'm going to kind of just keep going off to over the edge here, but I don't know if we can see down here, but we know when we get that 10 divided in half, we actually have 0.005. And we'll, okay, and we also saw Mr. Armstrong's madness with that other penny that I had. Where'd that thing go? So I'd cut that one in half, and I actually took those halves and cut them into 5 pieces each. So I actually have that into 10 pieces. So those actually right there are thousandths of a dollar. And they're going, well, I don't know about that dollar you ripped in half. They probably won't take that at the strip club, but they certainly aren't going to take these. These are really useless, and they're very small. As you can see, they're not perfectly the same size, but they're pretty little. They're tenths of a penny or thousandths of a dollar. And that's what we want to talk about, is how thousandths are really small, but they come into play when we're fabricating material, and our machines care about them. All right, moving back over to the board. Okay, now in here, you saw me the other, was working on cutting that penny up into 10. And I was saying that those little tiny pieces that are in there, those are thousandths of a penny, or thousandths of a dollar, sorry. Thousandths of a dollar or thousandths of an inch in our case is what we're talking about, dividing that inch into 1,000. So we're agreeing these things aren't worth much, but if we want to write down the value of what they are, and you know, I'm going to slide even a little bit over to my right, but we're going to say it's going to be 0.001 is 1/1000th of an inch or 1/10 of a penny. So we've now got denominations of our money that we can make into thousandths of a dollar, okay? Thousandths of a dollar, thousandths of an inch. We're just talking about how to divide, how to make fractions. So now we can get some of our other useful sizes, and we can say somewhere in between, you know, this 1/8 and 1/4. 1/8 is also 2/16. This is 4/16. So we have, in between there, we have 3/16. And 3/16 is an excellent thickness. We love it. And what it would be that 1/8 or the 125, and then it would also be, you know, that 16th. Well, maybe, I don't know, I guess maybe we should just go ahead and divide, we'll stick one in here so we know what a 16th is. Well, it's half of 125, or it's 0.0625 actually. That'd be even more than thousandths, but we're going to round that because that's the rules with math. We're going to round that to 0.63. 63 thousandths would be, that'd be 1/16. So if we're going to have, that's 2/16. So, you know, we got 63 and 125 together, and we'll get this right here. 0.188 188. 188 is 3/16 of an inch. Real useful size. Now when we're looking at our packing slips or things like that, what happens is actually, we know about this, we're allowed to round that up as well because it's just how the industry does it and we might as well know how they do it. And you might say it, I've seen it 187, I've seen it 188, but 190, this is what everybody's going to refer to as 3/16 of an inch. Okay, and then we also, in between this 3/8 and this quarter, also real common sizes, but there's another one that I love actually, it's really nice material. And so it would be the 250 plus the 63, it would be, you know, 313, or sometimes it's called 312, and you know, you can round these things one way or another depending upon the actual exact math, but you'll see it as 312, or sometimes we'll see it as 313. 313 would be our math, and I don't think they're going to tell you it's wrong. Once again, when we're talking about the thousandths, this is, you know, you can hardly see that thing with my fingers, it's so small. 312, 313, we got 5/16 of an inch. We go, okay, your board's starting to be a little bit of a mess, Mr. Armstrong. Well, there's a lot more sizes to go yet. We're going to have to say that there's some other sizes that are useful. Okay, one more division here we're going to do is we're going to need some 30 seconds. So 30-second would be half of that 0.63, so it's way down near the bottom here, and so we're going to say half of that would be 0.031 would be a 1/16 of an inch. And once again, you're, well, that's not half of 63. Well, it's half of 62, and the 62 was rounded up, so it's going to be 31.031, or 31 thousandths of an inch is going to be, that's going to be a 32nd. And we're going to say, hey, sometimes thicker than an eighth, but thinner than 3/16. We're going to say, what was the size that we like here, and that's going to be 156 thousandths of an inch, 156. Or, since we see people rounding these things all the time, we're going to call that 160. 160, or 5/32 of an inch. You're going to see that real commonly. So we've got basically, we've got our thicknesses, and we had a way to do that, and we could do that with money. Let's say that 160 would be that dime and that nickel, and 1 penny, we got 16 cents, or 160, 160 thousandths of an inch. And once again, we've rounded it a little bit here, but we're going to need to round it, because that's how it's going to show up on a packing slip. You know, you're going to see something, you're going to see it 72 by 240, which is inches, by 250, or by 160, or 625. You know, these things are all going to be thousandths of an inch. So we've got our fractions of an inch, you know, divided up into thousandths. And these are the ones I've cleaned the board up a little bit. Hopefully you can see that okay. That's the ones you got to remember. There's not a whole lot to remember. I've made you the little thing, the little ring of things. And that's it. Those are thousandths of an inch converted into what we use here at US Workboats and what they use in the fabrication industry in general. So I did something for you guys. You know, I want to make everything easier here. So, oh, there's that light about there. 125, or 1/8 of an inch. 160, or 5/32 of an inch. 190, 3/16 of an inch. And 250 at quarter to 312, or, you know, that's what industry calls it. I don't know why they don't call it 313 or 375. And those are real common sizes that we use all the time. I went and put a hole in them for you guys. And I was nice enough to actually write the 1/8 and the 5/32 and the 3/16 on the back of them. And I put that hole in there so I could put this on a ring here. Okay, so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna make up and give everyone one of these, or everyone who needs one who's not commonly, you know, doesn't recognize these. You can take it and take it home, leave it on your whatever, on your counter. The other thing that you're gonna do is, after a little while, if you touch this material and handle it a lot of times, you're just gonna be able to put your fingers on it. You know, I don't need to even measure it. I just take and feel a piece, and you get used to how thick it is. this is gonna be real useful for us, and we're gonna make up a bunch of these rings so you guys can have them all. So when I ask for a piece of quarter, or ask for a piece of, 3/16, or if I call it 190, or if anybody else does that too, it's gonna be a real easy way to do that. Okay, so everybody, I said metric. We're gonna talk about metric being, hey, some people think, well, metric solves all the things. Why don't we all just work in metric? A lot of the world's metric. We're in America, so that's one of the reasons. The other reason is, what I will say is, metric doesn't actually solve all of the problems. There's some times where fractions are going to be more useful to us than metric. And, I guess one of the times is we have just cut a couple of eggs off there, and we have 10 eggs. So metric works on the 10 system. We go, well, now, it'd be nice to cut this right in half and have half of that. I don't know if I should cut it this way or this way, but we'll just say, well, that's going to be the middle. Does that look like about the middle? I think so. So we'll go ahead and we'll just cut that right in half. And we're going to find out that we've made a real mess here. There's eggs all over because you can't cut 5, or you can't cut 10 and a half very easily like that. You could have 5 and 5, but what we got is we've got a mess on our hands. Okay, so I've cleaned the eggs up, and I've decided that I got 10 of my favorite IPAs here, some of these Bodhisattvas, and went, okay, there's 10 beer. We're going to talk just about dividing those. I got 3 friends coming over tonight, and so we'll, if we had a dozen beers, we could each have 3, but since we don't, maybe, 2 for one guy, 2 for another guy, 2 for me, 2 for the next guy, and then we got an extra one. Well, maybe I'll have 3, and this guy's actually, he's a good friend of mine, so we'll both have 3, and these guys only get 2. Well, I'm not really going to be that happy about that, and so we didn't divide well. Well, okay, this is a bit of a problem, but actually one of the guys just called. They're not going to be able to make it, so there's going to be extra beer, so we get him 3 as well, and I suppose we could each have 3, but what are we going to do with this one? I'll have that one. All 4. Well, that doesn't really quite divide either. So what we're talking is sometimes fractions are a good way to divide stuff. And dozens, have been around for a long time. You get stacking even piles. And it happens to us sometimes that fractions and dozens can be useful. And inches are, just like that. There's 12 inches, and there's we divide them down from there, but 12 inches and a foot and blah, blah, blah. So metric isn't always the answer. Okay, and another thing about metric, for all the people who love it, we're going, well, they take a meter, which happens to be 39.5 inches approximately. Take a meter, and we're going to say we're going to divide that up into 1,000. Remember, those 1,000 millimeters. So we're going to get something that's 260 something and something that's 475 millimeters. So we're back to dividing 1,000 up. We've divided 1 meter into 1,000. So why don't we just divide 1 inch into 1,000? Because we're going to have to do it one way or another. It's not really that. It really isn't too. Okay, guys. We're gonna break into pipe and tubing, but I just want to give you one real quick trick on measuring, finding the center or something. And you can find the center of anything, but with a boat, you really like to have the center line. With a lot of things, the center is good to find. I'm right here in my kitchen still, and I thought, well, I'm going to give a quick, really simple way to find the middle. And I've taped a piece of paper on my floor, and the reason that I did that is because I don't really actually want to mark with a Sharpie on my floor. And I'm going to measure over here from this corner of the wall across to here, and we're going to find the middle of that. Now, most of you are going to start doing this, and you're going to start measuring all the way across and figuring out how long it is, trying to divide that. And I'll tell you right now, it's a real mistake. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look and I'm going to guess, okay? I'm going to guess right there, and I'm going to say that's the middle. Well, I don't think you're probably right about that. You didn't spend much time on it. Well, it's like, okay, I think that's close to the middle, and we're going to do that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to say, hey, I'm going to measure over from here and push it up tight against the wall. And then I'm going to come out here, and I'm going to take a nice even measurement that I can remember. I'm going to go, we could go 60 inches or 70 inches, or, maybe we'll go 70 inches, okay? We'll go 70 inches. Can you see that okay, or my hand's blocking it? So we're going 70 inches from that side, all right? And now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to you look over here, I'm gonna push the tape measure tight to there. And I'm gonna mark 70 inches here. And I guess I probably should have gone a little tighter, maybe 65. But I got some tape there so we can do that. So now I've marked 70 inches out here because it's just 70 from both sides. Well, that wasn't too bad. It's like, okay, well, we can see, I actually like to use my 10-inch mark a lot of the time because it makes it easier. And I have 9.5 inches. 9.5 is not hard to divide. That would be 4.5 would give us 9, so 4 3/4. And I could mark right there, and I'm gonna call that the center line, okay? And that is exactly the center. It took me just a couple of seconds, and I never tried to figure out if the thing is, 163 7/8 and trying to divide that and screw with that, because it's gonna take us too long. It's gonna be easier, measure from both sides, just guess, get closer, divide a little bit, we're done. Good trick. Moving on, everybody, to the difference between pipe and tube. And this one definitely confuses people from time to time. But, I asked somebody for a piece of 2-inch pipe and they leave and come back and they really can't find any. They found some 1 7/8 pipe and some 2 3/8 pipe. And it is looking like, what do you want? I don't see any of this. Well, the difference between pipe and tube, and what is the difference? I mean, some people might say, pipe is round and the tube is square. Well, that's not the difference. I mean, you can have tubing that's square and tubing that's round. You'd say, well, I don't know, you thread pipe. Well, actually you do thread pipe, but I don't know, you could I guess that's really not the difference still. You could say, well, it's the material, Well, no, you can have pipe that's made out of plastic or pipe that's made out of stainless steel or aluminum. That doesn't matter. That's not the difference. The difference is how you measure it, folks. And I'm going to start out with this. This is a piece of square tube. Now it's going to be a 2 by 2. Okay, it's 2 inches exactly. Hopefully you can see that, by 2 inches exactly. And we talked about thousandths enough to realize that we're going, well, okay, so this is 2 by 2 by 125 because it's an 1/8 wall and it has a radius corner. Actually, you guys will find out that I really like a radius corner. So I'm going to call that, when I'm looking at the board, I'm going to call that 2 by 2. And actually, they'll add the zeros sometimes on the packing list by 0.125. And that's the round corner square tube. Writing is terrible. Tube. Okay. So you can have a tube that's also rectangular. Okay, well, this tube is definitely not a pipe. We all agree with that. Well, it's a 6 by 3 by quarter because it's a 1/4 inch thick wall. So 6 by 3 by 0.250 rectangular tube. Okay, radius corner. You go, okay, well, it's tube. Well, what do we have here? Well, that's also tube. Okay, that's a 4-inch round tube. Okay, well, why don't you call that a pipe, Mr. Armstrong? It's like, well, because everyone else calls it a tube because it is a tube. It's a 4-inch tube and it is a 4-inch by 1/8 wall. Okay, so we're going to call that 4, or just to humor you guys, 4.000 by 0.125, and that's round tubing, right? Round, I think, and it's actually, I think that it's actually 6061 also. That's the alloy. Okay, you're gonna see that stuff on the packing slip. It's tubing. Okay, we'll go, okay, well, hold on. What's that? Is that a piece of tubing too? It's like, well, no, it's not. It's a piece of 4-inch pipe, by the way. Well, what's the difference between pipe and tubing? Well, tubing, you measure outside. Pipe, well, let's get into pipe. We're going to talk about pipe. This is 4-inch pipe. Mr. Armstrong is 4.5 inches. Okay, well, maybe we'll measure it inside. Well, geez, it's not 4 inches inside either. Okay, well, why is it not 4 inches inside? Well, because that's called a nominal measurement. Okay, so the thing about pipe, now we're in America, okay, and we talked a lot about the fact that we have inches, but this here, you guys recognize, even, you know, you're not fabricating to know about this thing. This is a 2x4. It's like, well, why do you have a 2x4 when you're talking about pipe? Well, it's a nominal measurement, okay? Is it 2 inches by 4 inches? No, it's 3.5 inches by 1.5 inches. At least they're all the same, but they aren't a 2x4 in terms of the real measurements. They're called a nominal measurement, 3.5 by 1.5 because they plane it. Okay, so we got a piece of, we'll start with this plastic pipe. This plastic pipe, I happen to know it's 2 inches. I'm measuring it, I'm going, well, looks like it's 2 3/8. Mr. Armstrong, this is a 2 3/8 piece of pipe. No, it isn't. It's a 2-inch pipe because it's a 2-inch hole in the center. Well, it's not exactly 2 inches. Well, this one is 2 3/8, exactly the same size as plastic pipe, but it has a different size hole in the center. Okay, well, that's it. Okay, nominal measurement for the inside. Now this piece, something's welded on it. This is a piece of 1.5 inch pipe, and it's threaded on one end. There was something threaded on there before I found it in my garage. Anyways, that thing doesn't measure 1.5 inches anywhere. I mean, the outside size is, well, what's 1 7/8 inches, and the inside size is, well, it's kind of close to 1.5 inches. It's not really quite, but it's kind of close. But it's 1.5 inch pipe, okay? So the difference between pipe and tube is how you measure it. You measure the inside, but when the wall thickness is changed, that's what the difference between these are, is one is schedule 40, the other one is schedule 80. The schedule means it's thicker, okay? So the hole size changes when you get different wall thickness, but they call that, they call it schedules. Why? And I don't know why they call it that, but you know, we would have schedule 10, schedule 40, schedule 80. They're talking about the thickness of the wall, and you can see that these are different, okay? When we look at this pipe, you know, happen to know that's a piece of 1/2 inch pipe, and that's a piece of 1.25 inch pipe. Well, how do I know all that? Well, it's because I'm used to working with it. And we're going to thread the outside every time so that no matter if we make the inside, you know, the wall thickness different, the outside has to stay the same so we can thread it. Now you can look up pipe sizes on the internet. You can look up the different wall thicknesses, the outside and the inside. There's charts you can put on the wall and line, whatever. There's lots of choices. But what I got is they got the common sizes, and this is a 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, 1 inch, 1 1/4, 1.5, and 2 inch. These are common pipe sizes that we use, and I put them on a nice little ring here and wrote on them. And you know, we're gonna issue these to everybody who, you know, is unfamiliar with them, and you can keep them on your toolbox. That way, when somebody asks you for a piece of 1.5 inch pipe, you're not lost. You go, okay, well, which one's 1.5 inches here? Well, we'll just look at it, and why not just reference this little ring? Should make it easier for us. Okay, everybody, so we're done talking about thousandths of an inch, and we're done talking about pipe, and we're done talking about tubing. And I said this was going to be basic measurements, so I'll try and keep my word on that. I was starting to think about volumes, and well, geez, I don't know if anybody wants to talk about volumes, but I don't know. If we're going to do the volumes, I think maybe I'd like to do that one from the pub. I'll make that video down there, because maybe I'll go down there and get myself a beer. Oh, that does sound pretty good. Well, I wonder what size beer we'll get. Maybe we'll get, I don't know, should we get like a can or a bottle length or a 12-ounce beer? I don't know. I don't want 12-ounce beer. I want to have a pint of beer. Pint, well, how much is that? Well, pint is like 2 cups, or it's like, well, pint is 1/8 of a gallon. It's like, wow, I'll take a pint too. I don't want one of those 22-ounce beers. I'd like to get a pint of beer, a 16-ounce beer. Wonder about what they would do if they were metric. What do you do when you go to the UK? Would you get a pint? I think they talk about pints. Or would you get half of a liter? Ooh, liters, you weren't going to use metric. I said, well, I don't know. I'm going to drive down to the pub, and I'm going to get, I got a 5.7 liter engine in my pickup. Actually, hold on, we're in America. No, I got a 350 cubic inch engine in there. 350 cubic inches. Yeah, that's the displacement. This is volume. Sounds pretty good. And it's got a 3-inch stainless steel exhaust on it. Sounds really good. 5-speed, I love it. I'm going to go down there, and I'm going to have 1/8 of a gallon of beer. Actually, maybe I'll have 2 beer. Jeez, that's like an eighth of a gallon. You have 2, that's gonna be like a quarter of a gallon. It's like, well, it's gonna be time to get an Uber pretty quick. What about that 3-inch exhaust? Is that 3-inch tubing or is that 3-inch pipe? Well, everybody knows an exhaust pipe's an exhaust pipe. No, it isn't. It's actually not, guys. It's made out of steel, it's stainless steel, but it's actually 3-inch tubing. All this time you thought you had a 3-inch exhaust, you had a 3-inch tubing on your truck. Well, that doesn't sound cool. Okay, so we call things a bunch of different stuff all the time in their slang, but tubing is what you make exhaust out of. And all this stuff's starting to make my head hurt. I don't know, maybe you guys don't even want beer. Maybe some of you want wine. Well, geez, 750 mils in a bottle of wine. Mils, yeah, milliliters. Oh, those are thousandths of a liter? Yeah, that's right. Well, if you have one glass, that'd be like a quarter of a bottle. With 2 glasses, I guess you could have that. You'd have a half a bottle. Well, half a bottle is 375 mils. Well, hold on, I thought you said that was 3/8 of an inch. Oh, God, this is making my head hurt. I don't know about this. I don't know if we even want wine anymore. I think we'll stick with the beer. And, geez, what are you doing with your dollar bill? I might not even want to go to the pub. Maybe I'll go where I was last night. We've got this dollar. I'm going to tape it back together and see if they'll take it. You know, it was a half, now it's a whole again. Let me get out of here. Yeah, I guess I'm going to stick to my word. I'm not going to talk anymore about thousandths of an inch or feet or anything. You know, I'm just going to get out of here and I'm going to go to my original plan. I'm going down to the pub and I'm going to have a beer. I don't know if any of you guys want to come and join me, but would anybody like a quarter of an orange? They're pretty good. See you next time.